Yo, greetings, people. This is your boy Black Gold, and I am here on Tuesday morning with my man Truly MC.
DMC in the place to be, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Hey, forgive him if he take over because he can't do that. But this is my man, Truly, and we're gonna have a discussion real quick today. I woke up today with a lot on my in my spirit, that I want to download as usual. Early in the morning, 3, 4 things just start to come. It's the best time if you really want to download. It's about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. So I kind of like held on to this for a few hours, had breakfast, let it marinate, and then I chose to come to the park and just sit and tell a story that and I'm gonna slow down a little bit because I have a tendency to just take off, so I'm gonna slow it down a little bit. So I chose to come to the park and share with you all a story that someone shared with me some time ago. You know, and when I got here, I saw my man MC True Lee doing his thing, and we'll talk about it another time. And I welcomed him to the conversation, or invited him. Excuse me, that's the word I'm looking for. Invited him to this conversation.
Yeah, I stepped in. I barged in. Like, let me in this
Pretty
man.
much, pretty much. So I'm gonna go ahead and start it out. This story is a story. Oh, no, excuse me. Before I start this story, I want to say my why for telling this story. My why. This story is specifically for my YouTube subscriber. I think it's about 380 something. I'm not quite sure of the numbers or whatnot, but I know it's been a rapid increase in numbers in the last week, and a lot of great positive comments that have come from them all the way from London, and other parts of the world in regards to my encounter with the law enforcers. So I wanted to take the time to
Shout y'all out. Give y'all appreciation. Thank you for tuning in.
absolutely.
As well.
One in particular is dying to live, because that's what my life is about. Dying to live. That's what life in general is about to me. You have to die in order to live. In order to make it to heaven, you have to die first. So one of my actual subscribers or friends or brethren is die to live. So this is kind of like going out to him in a specific
You
way.
elaborating on that subject matter for him.
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. So with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and jump into this. Hopefully, I can nail it the first time and go straight through, just freestyling.
Yeah,
So this story is about a black female who was raised in the. She was born in 1948 in the city of Cleveland, Ohio, which is the poor city in our country at the time. This is a story about one of her experiences during the time of desegregation, when she was bused over to a predominantly white high school.
just no lack of tools.
Yeah.
1948, as a black woman, you have lack of resources. You have lack of tools. It's not really too much you can do. It's not too much you know. You don't have too much support. In 1948, being in Ohio, so I totally understand what you mean by
for
that
sure.
one.
And so would be her parents, 1948, because she was born in 1948. So her parents, with the lack of tools and resources, were basically guided to where they would educate their children. And so this is one of the her experience. The person's telling the story in 1965. So she would be 16 years old at the time, somewhere around that. And she was a junior in high school at the time. So once again, this is the time during racism and the riots in the city of Cleveland. There was a big riot called the Huff Riots that had taken place around the time. And once again, this is like maybe 100 years after of civil rights and all this. So we're still trying to figure out what's going on in the country and where everyone fits, what have you. So the way the story was told to me, she was actually a junior in high school, and she was bused to that school based on some test scores, and it was a vocational school where pretty much all day she was learning to sew and home economics or whatnot, basically preparing her to be a maid or something
A woman.
Yeah, absolutely. And a woman in America, however, a black woman in America, I'll say that. I don't want to get too much into that and throwing off the story, but nevertheless, so she was going to this. She was bused to this school, and it's predominantly white, a few blacks, and once again, 1965. So this particular day, there was a boycott, that took place, and she didn't. She heard of the boycott, and she chose. And the boycott was that no blacks would go to school to stay, for all the blacks to stay out of school. According to her, she heard the story, but she and another friend of hers, another lady that she remembered her name to this day, chose to go to school because their thoughts was no one's going to stop me from getting my education. So they actually chose to go to school this particular day. So once they got to school, it started. She said they were walking through the hallways and they were taunted from the time they walked into the school by whites. These are teenagers now. She was called nigger, black niggers. Oh, she thinks she's white. She thinks she's tough. Point, just taunting, no physical touching or anything, and just taunting, a bunch of verbal abuse. And so I guess she went to lunch or what have you. A half day went by, I don't know. And midways during the day, she was walking up the stairs and walking down the stairs, and two white females were walking up the stairs. And one of the comments were made again, this black nigger must think she's white, and she reacted by turning around and pulling the female down the stairs and commits to whooping on her. Okay, so one of the teachers apparently broke the fight up and sent them off to their class. And once the class was over, she said she walked back out of the classroom, and when she exited the class, there were 6 white females waiting for her outside the classroom, and they were all calling her white niggas and this and that and the other, pointing at her. And before she knew it, she snapped, and she just commits to fighting all of them. And she said, and when it was all said and done, she had white hair in her mouth, all over the place, where she just had lost it.
She got out of herself.
Yeah, and yes, and she kind of, yeah, absolutely. And so the consequences were, okay, they went to the office, and all of them were suspended. Her and the 6 that she was fighting, everyone was suspended for 3 days. Okay, so 3 days went by. She was suspended. She did her time, and so a little background at home. She had to go and be reinstated back in school. So her mother took her back to school. Her mother's opinion was kind of like, okay, no. When she went back to school, the conversation was, did the white female call you a black nigger or black bitch? Because the white female said she didn't call her a nigger, she said it was a bitch. And the woman that's telling the story said that no, she called me a white nigger. She just wasn't going for that. So her mother said, well, it didn't really matter whether it was white bitch or white nigger. It didn't matter to her. But on the flip side, her dad, the woman telling the story, her dad felt as though, look, just go to school and do what they tell you to do, and follow the rules, and so it was kind of like she was torn between that. And so she said, no, it was clear as day, white nigger, and that's why I did what I did. Well, however, they didn't like her attitude, so she got another 3-day suspension for having a bad attitude. She wasn't adjusting or
cooperating.
Yes, she wouldn't say what it is that they wanted her to say, so she took another. So that's 6 days. That's a 6-day war. And when she returned to school, her name was the Champ. Okay, she was called the Champ by the rest of the black kids, because of what she'd done, what she had did. And so for me, there's a few things that I want to say about this story. And just prior to that, they had, it was a boiling point, because she stated that prior to that they would be locked into cafeterias for like an hour and a half after school, not allowed to go home because of the whites would be outside waiting to do whatever, and they would tear the cafeterias up, all blacks in the cafeteria just throwing tables out of the window because they were so agitated because they were oppressed and being threatened by, okay. So that's what brought up to the day when she chose to go to school, and that was the 6-day war. And so what's the moral of the story? The moral of the story is there are no morals. Morals. And as well as this is the same thing that's happening today, And her feeling behind that is that reflecting back on it, as she told the story, is that it wasn't really, she don't point her finger at the students or the kids, it was the authorities, that kept perpetuating the idea, or who made it worse by punishing her. So if she had an attitude about about the situation, it would be more towards the authority opposed to the actual students or the kids that actually participated in the situation. So the other piece of this is that that black woman was my mother. That's my biological mother. And I was told that story when I was younger, and Imagine being 16 years old and going through that, and going home and praying, praying to a creator, God, Father, or whoever, for its protection, for some assistance. And I tell this story to say that 2 years later, her prayer was answered for a king named King David to fight this battle. King David. And I fight like her, like the goddess. Now I ask the question, why is it 50 something years later and it's still the same situation? What did she do to anyone to be called black nigger, to be discriminated against, you know? And like she said, her father had already conformed, you know, to the idea. Fast forward the tape, she conformed because she really can't understand why I fight the way that I fight. Okay. So, to my viewers, and you know, this is why I deal with the law enforcement way, because I won't conform. I was in law enforcement, police officer for 24 years. Law enforcement in Cleveland, Ohio, same city, so I conformed. Only difference, she didn't get a high school diploma in that school system, and neither did I. No high school diploma nor GED. Then I served the city, the country, as a United States Marine. I served. As a Cleveland police officer, I served to protect. And I will not sit back and allow and watch the system perpetuate that same racist, ignorant mindset. I don't care what you wear, what your title is. I am King David, and I will fight that battle for all of those who doesn't have the courage to fight them themselves. That's why I'm here in Huntington Beach, the wealthiest county, city in our country, from the poorest city in our country, dealing with these tyrants who on June 19th handcuffed me for sitting at Starbucks with a cup of coffee after purchasing with a Marine Corps uniform on, jacket on, accused me of trespassing, handcuffed me and slammed me on my head and broke my knee, punched my head, and scraped my shoulder, and never held themselves responsible. Where's the responsibility? So I leave you with this. After 50 years, 2 females were still not, they still were overlooked. This story have never been heard. No one have said, hey, I apologize. No one.
Well, we understand.
This is not a personal thing for anyone. You may understand. I'm speaking to the world the truth, because I know a lot of people are wearing masks around here, or out in the world, and acting as they understand. So I'm just giving a raw story of what's really taking place and how it continues to perpetuate. No, there's really not a lot of understanding. We must tell these types of stories so that we can get a clear understanding.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you watch my YouTube video and you see me speak to the authorities the way that I speak to them, that's why.
Oh, no, my apologies. I was saying as far as like you don't see them saying, "Oh, I apologize," or "We understand what you're going through." That's what I was saying.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
and
absolutely. Yes, absolutely. So, yeah, and so thank you all. I don't apologize, so there's no forgiveness to be asked, but I know that I got a little emotional, and I hope that everything came out, in an order that you can kind of like put it together. Once again, I didn't prepare for this. I don't have a script or anything. I'm not gonna even go back and redo it. I may just like chop it in half. I don't know what
Can
I'll
I
do.
add on to your rap song? If anything, let me elaborate with you. How y'all doing out there? Best believe it would be. It's truly. Taking what you gave me, I understand exactly what you mean. As far as like, I just asked my mom that same thing probably like 2 weeks ago. Like, my exact words was, when did motherfuckers give up and why? What did our ancestors do all this for? What did like Malcolm X or Martin Luther King, Marcus Garvey, not even African American heroes or so? We got some Muhammad Ghazni, we got Cesar Chavez, we have multiple Yuki from Japan. We have multiple heroes out here, all color, creed, sizes, Doesn't matter. But at the same time, when do we stop being heroes? When do we stop fighting? When do we when do we become so content with society and the way life is going? When do we just like give up and say fuck? When and why? But then me having those questions, I start getting distracted from my definite purpose to the point I have to remind myself, oh, I can't be focusing on when and why. I just have to keep doing what I have to do. To elaborate more, what you're saying, yes, I see your fight. I see your battle. I appreciate that because you are a vessel that's been a strong help, sense of clarity, understanding, another form of belief. Like I said, I asked my mom when the motherfuckers give up, and I see you didn't give up. And then sometimes I be want to give up because I see society, you know, especially me, my young, yeah. But looking at you, I see like you still pushing forward. You still doing it. You've been on this planet for some time now. You still doing it. You've seen some things. You're wise. You know, you have inherited and intake the energy and the lifestyle of your parents and their ancestors, and then you still here to fight. That's inspiring. You know what I mean? You can do it. I can do it too. You know what I mean? And that's what I want to give back to some of the youth, majority of the youth. Hopefully, I can. You know what I mean? Is strengthening, is empowering, is inspiration, motivation, uplifting, just being a positive person. You know, but at the same time, working for what you want. And as you saying on the moral, what's the moral of the story? We don't have no moral. We're just out here drifting. We just do things for no reason or because we want instant gratification or satisfaction or because we think that's what society or other people wants. But we need to start having morals in life. Like first of all, what it is that you want to do, and make sure what you want to do is helping humanity, helping the youth, helping the future, helping the right side of the spectrum. You know what I mean? Um, and I yeah, totally understandable. Totally understandable. Um, that's what I would say with that. Like now in this day and age, it's like think for yourself. You know, try to be an add-on to the rap song. You know, not a bad one. I'm just, but not literally, like try to reap some type of fruit, some type of seed of positivity, something of progression, something. You know what I mean? Because we all got problems. We all tripping. We all going through something. My overall objective is to make somebody else's job a little bit easier. That's my overall job in life, is to make your job a little bit easier.